Nice to have you. What first inspired you and Oscar to set out on this challenge of attending every Stevenage match last season?
Well, I wanted to write a love story, and I thought, what do me and my 14-year-old son Oscar like doing best together? And that turned out to be going to Stevenage. Oscar had become a kind of fanatical, really keen fan, and he was the only one in his school, and still is, the only people who support Stevenage, and he loved doing it. And when we started going away, which was about 3 seasons ago, then he loved that too. So therefore we had this base of something that we do, a big task we could do together, of something that we love doing together, but also it could be a love story about me and him, the love of a father for a son, and slightly less so, I think, because he's a 15-year-old boy, of a son for a father. And we love Stevenage. So we put the whole lot together to make a multifaceted love story.
Amazing. So did you start it with the idea of making it a book, or did you start the journey and then go, this would make an incredible story as well?
Well, in the last but one season, the first season in League One, then we went to an awful lot of away games. We went to nearly all of them. And this idea took shape. We were having experiences. We were doing things together. We were going to places like Exeter and Carlisle, a long, long way away. And I thought during that season it would be a great idea if we could have this massive task of seeing every competitive Stevenage game for the next season. And then I suggested it to a publisher, and for better or for worse, they said, yes, that's a great idea. We'd love to do a love story incorporating lower league football and Stevenage in particular. And that was born. All I had to do then was sell it to Oscar.
Amazing. How did you sell it to him? How did you convince him?
Well, I used to sell the task to Oscar. I used a mixture of flattery, bribery, and bullying, which involved him missing certain afternoons of school because we had to go to places like Stockport and Wigan on a school night, which he was hugely excited about. Because amazingly, on the morning of these long evening away games, he was usually quite ill, and he had to leave school early. And there I was, hoping that his illness would clear up. And do you know what? Every single time it did. So we went on the long away games, and he loved that. He loved that, and it was a great thing for him to do, and he bought into it to his immense credit. Although obviously it usually involved a Nando's in Stevenage or fish and chips in northern towns.
Amazing. You described it as that love story. What did that bonding process look like from sort of the beginning of the season to the end?
Well, Oscar's reservation was spending so much time with me. I don't mind spending time with him. I think he's great. I love being around this super enthusiastic, slightly cynical 15-year-old boy. But Oscar was going, are we actually going to spend 6 hours in a car? Are we going to go to Wigan for the whole day? How far is it to Wigan? Well, I'd say 2.5 hours, which is obviously not true at all. And after 2.5 hours, then he'd say, well, Wigan's not really very near, is it? And I'd say, no, Oscar, but we're spending time together. And Oscar's response to this, of course, would be to put his headphones on, listen to The Weeknd or Tyler, the Creator, and sort of scowl at me from afar. But he just loved going to the games. He loved talking about the games. And he loved Stevenage's roller coaster season. And I think at the end we had a sort of debrief. It's there in the final chapter. And he goes, yeah, I spent an awful lot of time with you. That's not really natural. But you weren't as bad as I thought you would be. And I'm going to take that as a ringing endorsement.
Yeah, great compliment. What was the most memorable away day you did together, and why does that stick in your memory?
I know the most memorable away day was Wrexham. Wrexham of a Tuesday evening, and I know every single Stevenage supporter who was there thinks exactly the same thing. It was an extraordinary evening. Wrexham sold the best pies in League One, lest we forget. The people there, the stewards, their fans, they were all lovely. And the game itself was absolutely extraordinary. The first half was, I think, probably the best half of football I've ever seen from a Borough team. And we went up and just kept thinking, can this be? Can we win? Can it happen? And Wrexham came back strongly in the second half. And it was incredibly tense. They scored. They scored very late on, Wrexham, to make it 2-3. And Borough backs were against the wall. All the fans, we'd almost stopped chanting. We'd been so loud, so excited. But in those last few minutes, there was this sort of catatonic, tense silence. And everyone, there was just proper shaking and looking around. Injury time took ages. Wrexham scored. And then there was a moment in at a time where Wrexham broke through for once. We all thought, every single Borough supporter there thought, this is it. Murphy Cooper comes out, not the biggest goalkeeper in the world, lest we forget, but he comes out, makes himself giant, and the Wrexham player thwacks the ball into his face. And wow, it must have hurt Murphy Cooper. But he grabbed onto the ball, flopped on it as goalkeepers the world over do, and he looked over to us, and Murphy Cooper gave us a great big wink and the cheekiest grin you'll ever see. And then we knew that we'd won. And after it, everyone was in a state of near hysteria. It was a cold night in North Wales. People were waving their shirts. They'd gone topless, waving their shirts around their heads. They were chanting. And the whole atmosphere was incredible. People were hugging. Strangers were hugging. This woman, she was about 75. She kissed me. The stewards were great. This female steward, the woman steward, came over to me and congratulated me as if I'd scored the winner, as if it was my face that had stopped that last second's goal. And Revs came over. He did his customary fist pumps. And Revs, after that, he just stood there, just shaking his head, grinning. And he knew what it meant to us, and we knew what it meant to Revs. And Oscar was absolutely beside himself. And we stayed in the ground for a good 10 minutes after the game. And then me and Oscar wended our way through these Wrexham fans. And they were all lovely. He got his Borough shirt on. And nobody was giving us any hassle. And Oscar, out of the corner of his eye, saw Wrexham's in-house television team filming some interviews. And Oscar just couldn't stop himself. He went up, got himself in front of the camera while they were interviewing these sad Wrexham fans, and starts chanting, "Revel again, ole, ole," bouncing up and down. And you could see the cameraman desperately trying to look a little bit stern, but he was really laughing, and Oscar just couldn't control himself. And that's what it meant to him, and that's what it meant to us.
That's such an incredible story, and Stevenage fans all love those kind of details in the book. How did the club's culture and that sort of those fans influence your storytelling?
Well, I mean, we have to be frank here. Stevenage have not got the largest away support, but in a sense, they've got the best away support. The Stevenage supporters who travel, they know adversity. They know what it's like to lose to Mansfield on a school night, like we did a couple of years ago. They know what it's like to there just be a few of us in a corner watching a performance that isn't necessarily great. Stevenage fans have got a sense of humour about it, but also they've got a sense of loyalty about it. The fans who go are great. It's a massive part of their lives. It's a huge part. And they also, I think, they feel loved and they feel appreciated by the club too. There's the moment they did it before games. Stevenage players, as we all know, they go into a huddle. You look at the huddle and you can see Pidge, his fingers waving. He's telling them, he's geeing them up. Everybody's got their arms around each other. And then the Borough players break from their huddle. They give us a clap. We clap them back. And it's a fantastic moment of bonding, which doesn't happen at away games. It happens at away and home games. But it feels like you're one. It feels like you're part of it. And, we accept that some clubs have got more fans than Stevenage. So what? The people who follow Stevenage are lovely.
Absolutely. How did following Stevenage week in, week out last season change the way you view lower league football?
Well, going to lower league football is essentially a great thing. It's not like the Premier League. It's not where you pay an awful lot of money to watch famous players through binoculars and where you pay extraordinary amounts for your half-time food. It's not like that. It's closer, and it feels closer for almost every other League One club that we went to. People who follow lower league football understand each other. They understand why you say, if you're an Exeter fan, why you come to the Lamex for a morning kickoff, as of course we did at Exeter. But you understand that. You respect that. You understand why, say, Blackpool fans come to Stevenage on a Good Friday and they've got to wend their way home to Lancashire through the Good Friday traffic. And also, they don't mind. All the journeys that we had back to Hertfordshire in a trip, there was roadworks many times. No, not a big fan of roadworks. Who is? But that's fine. You completely accept it. You're closer to the action, literally, in a physical sense. But you're also closer to the clubs. You're closer to the players. It's a much more inclusive experience. And yes, you follow lower league football for, say, a 15-year-old boy like Oscar. It's a character building exercise. It makes him stronger. He understands about teamwork. He understands about defeats, and he understands about victory too.
Brilliant. You mentioned Wrexham away. Were there any other standout moments that sort of summarise the whole experience for you and Oscar?
Thinking of standout actual moments, it's difficult because there's so many of them. However, we have some. From a football point of view, I think it was the goal that Jordan Roberts scored against Charlton at the Lamex. It was an astonishing goal. It started with Murphy Cooper. They rolled it through the pitch, down the pitch. There was interplay with Jamie Reid. Charlton were bamboozled. It was a wonderful goal at any level. From a kind of weird perspective, we're at the Virtue Trophy at Leyton Orient. We're in the 10th minute. 10 minutes of added time for whatever reason. And Orient are pressing. And there's very few of us in a corner of the stand. And the ball falls to Jordan Brown, the Orient midfielder. He hits this frankly beautiful shot. Tay in goal, couldn't get near it. No goalkeeper in the world could. And as these things tend to do, it was all in slow motion for the fans. The ball beats Tay. We think, oh God, this is it. And it thwacks against the bar. Now, there wasn't many people at that Virtue Cup tie. So therefore, we could hear the ball hit the bar, the clang. It was a beautiful, beautiful noise. Oscar and every other Borough fan, apart from me actually, celebrated as if we'd scored a goal. He was jumping up and down like he just go, yeah, that's Oscar's thing, that's what he does. Me, I just couldn't stop laughing. I got a fit of the giggles because it was so absurd. This was the Virtue Trophy. We were celebrating like we'd won promotion. It was absolutely fantastic. But there's also another thing too. Later in the season, when we went to Cambridge. Now, Cambridge is, of course, the club where Rev started out and where, as a boy, he was in their schoolboy team. So you know, and you hope, and you understand that going to Cambridge is a big thing for Revs, as it is for us. We had a ball that night. It was wild. The atmosphere was sensational. Borough won, thanks to this magnificent goal from Jamie Reid. And afterwards, Revs came over, as he does, and he does his fist pumps, as we know, which is one of the great things about following Stevenage. And you could look in Revs's face, he was so close to him. After every fist pump, you could hear him go, yeah. And for the first time, and I think he's done it a few times this season, but for the first time, Revs repeated his fist bumps. He did it again, and he looked absolutely overwhelmed. Now, ostensibly, it was a game where there wasn't too much to play for, but that's the thing about lower league football. The thing about Stevenage, there's always something to play for. That meant so much to Revs, and because it meant so much to Revs, in turn, it meant so much to us. It was a brilliant night and a beautiful moment. And yet again, we felt as one with Revs.
Brilliant. You've spoken about those kind of emotions and sharing that with Oscar. How did that journey change the way you see match days from a family perspective?
Well, the journeys that we did were all me and him. Obviously, we both went to every competitive game together, and we saw every single goal except for Pidge's own goal at Reading, because two Stevenage fans came right in front of us to find their seats, and we missed that moment, which I think wouldn't disappoint Pidge too much, actually. But we spent this time together, and it is a great thing to do. And part of the reason I did this book is because when my own father died, and he was a great guy, my dad, there were so many questions that I hadn't asked him. He was also someone who never met Oscar because he died before then. And I just thought that maybe there'll be a point when I'm gone, when Oscar's a lot older, and people say, what was it like with your dad? What was your relationship with your dad? And Oscar's memories will be kind of sepia tinted. He won't sort of remember everything, as people don't about their own parents. But then Oscar will look at the book and say, yeah, this is how we were. And he can show it to his children, and he can go, yeah, we really loved each other. And that night at Wrexham, that was something else, wasn't it?
That's so lovely to hear. What do you hope Stevenage fans and other readers will take from reading this book?
I think Stevenage fans, then hopefully, particularly the ones of us who go away, and lest we forget, our away support is increasing. The numbers are getting greater. I think everyone who follows Stevenage would hopefully see something of not just the games that they saw last season, Stevenage's third best ever, lest we forget, but they will also see something of themselves, of their experience. And no matter how you follow Borough, whether you go on the supporters coach, whether you go on the train, whether you go by car, as we did all of those things last season, that then there's something in it that you can say, yeah, that's how it is for us. But also there's a notion that people who go to lower league football, people who follow other fans, be they those Exeter fans who travelled during Saturday morning to come to the Lamex for lunchtime, be they the Wrexham fans who did it for a night match at the Lamex, they'll think, yeah, this is what it's like. There are universal things involved in following football teams at a lower league, and it's a love story. You follow a lower league team, it has to be love. You're not doing it for kudos. You're not doing it to show off. You're doing it because you love the club and it says something about you, and that is something good.
Definitely. And if you could give one message to fellow football fans, fellow supporters about the importance of making memories through going to these match days, what would it be?
And people say football isn't important. They say, not everybody of course, but they say it destroys relationships. They say it's frivolous. It's just some blokes kicking a bag of wind about. But it's absolutely not. Football makes memories. You have promotion seasons like Borough's the other year. Those memories last for a lifetime. Going to football matches with your family, with your son, with your dad, they're important points of your life. They make memories that last forever. And also, they're great memories. You don't regret a game of football that you've been to see, even if it's a defeat, ever. It's hugely important and it brings people together. And if you follow your local team at a lower league level, it puts you in the community. It makes you part of something, and part of something good, and part of something that is about togetherness.
Absolutely. Do you think you and Oscar will continue going to as many games together?
Well, we talked a little bit about what we're going to do this season. We can't go to every game because he's got his GCSEs. We got our season tickets without even thinking about it. And yeah, we go to every game. We still love it. I slightly miss writing about it, to be honest. But we go to every game. We're part of this. We're lifers. We're hooked. There's an addiction.
Must be happy with how this season's going then.
Well, this season is of course fantastic. Of course, it's better than anyone could have hoped for at the moment. But looking back at last season, you saw signs of it. You saw signs of it. You saw Rev saying after every game, this is how close we are. This is why it's not quite working. This is why it has worked. And the purchases in the summer have been absolutely excellent. And you look at the benches this season, there's so much talent on there. There's options to change games. And look how well they're doing. It's fantastic.